It's Sunday, the 25th of June, 2017. I thought I'd have a bit of a discussion of some of the ASX developing gold companies that have kind of sort of gone under the radar in the last 9 months after their strong moves in early and mid 2016. Some of the producers have still been doing quite well, and they're still churning out good cash flow, but these developing companies have been overlooked, and I think there's some great opportunities there, given that the market for Australian gold producers seems to be pretty good. And if you're looking with a sort of 6 to 12 month time frame, in my view, I think the Australian dollar gold price has got an upward bias. And if it's getting to $1,700 an ounce, a lot of these companies will be churning out cash. So I've really been trying to scale the market, looking for the best opportunities. One of the ones I'm investing in quite a lot is Gascoyne Resources, which is GCY. That's been tracking sideways now for almost a year, but they've got financing. They've got their project in construction and are seeking the last financing portion of that, which will probably be about a $40 million loan, and they're suggesting that'll be they'll get that in the next 3 or 4 weeks from their bankers. I think they're still in construction anyway, so they don't need that immediately. They've got 4 or 5 months before they'll need to draw down any debt. The project is a fairly low-grade, open pitable mine. I've got their latest announcement here to the ASX on, I think it was on Thursday. And what I like about this project is it's the simple construction, fairly low capex, and low cost in production as well. So all-in sustaining costs are about 930 Australian, which is about $700 an ounce. And that would be in the lower sort of third, I would say, or even lowest quartile of producers in Australia at the moment. And I think, given that it's a fairly simple ore deposit, it's quite soft ore as well. It's unlikely to have the technical problems that I think some of the other projects are having in the last sort of 6 to 12 months. Two that stand out there are Dore Minerals Deflector and Blackham Resources as well. Their projects had a lot of issues and high costs, and then they have to do more equity raisings, and it turns into a bit of a rabbit hole. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, I guess, by looking for companies that have a history of developing projects successfully and running and operating them well. And I guess you've got to look at the technical factors that allow that to happen. So that's what I'm trying to look for. And I think this project stacks up. The other thing is that even though it's a relatively small initial mine life of only 620,000 ounces, about 6 years of production, their results in the last year would indicate that they have a pretty good ability to add ounces. And from the stuff I've seen from in their presentations, there's a high chance that they add more and more ounces as the years go by. So this could be, this could turn into an 8 to 10 year mine life quite easily, potentially a lot longer. And if you look at successful companies like Regis, who I think Gascoyne are trying to model themselves on somewhat, that's kind of the approach they've taken. They've started with low capex developments, and they've added ounces as they've needed them. It doesn't make sense to drill out a deposit and dilute shareholders so much that by the time you actually get in production, you can't. There's no benefits for shareholders, and I think Gascoyne have really shown that they're protecting the interest of shareholders. Some of the guys here have also run successful companies in the past. I think they were also involved in a company called Geralia Resources, which is an iron ore miner that sold out near the top of that market. So yeah, previous successes are something that I always look for, because in the mining business there's a lot of guys who are pretenders, and you've got to look for the ones who are really have had successes in the past and show they can protect shareholders' interests. But yeah, this project is relatively straightforward. I think the chart's probably not as great as I would like. I've been entering in the sort of sub 52 cent range in the last 6 to 8 weeks. But I think there was a bit of a turning point there the other day, as it looked like some of the tax loss selling was finally sort of coming through in the market. I mean, it's the end of June, at the end of next week. So that can be a factor in some of these small mining stocks if people are sitting on capital losses or capital gains that they need to balance out against one another. So I think this is one of the really good plays, I think, is on the ASX at the moment. Their second project as well, that at Glenburgh, which is another 1 million ounce deposit, including inferred resources. They haven't done a lot of work on that in the last 3 years, but I think that that has real potential to be a second project. So they can, funnel the profits from Dalgaranga and hopefully develop that project. The other stock that is similar, along a similar vein, is Capricorn Metals, and that's the chart doesn't really tell you a lot. It only it did a listing. It only listed last year into MGY, but it's trading around the lows, fairly thinly traded as well. I mean, it's been trading sort of only $10,000 a day or so for the last little while, and it doesn't. I think if you're a large shareholder, that might be a problem, but for a smaller investor, you can nibble away at these stocks and build a holding over a few weeks. And I think it's a good time to be doing that in some of these junior development companies. And their project's quite similar to Gascoigne's. They don't have any feasibility study yet, and the production costs are unknown and the capex for the project. But from some of the reading I've done, that I think it'll stack up along similar lines and could have very good costs in the early few years, sub $1,000 an ounce Australian, and that's really good. And I think there's a sort of a lack of those projects available. So Regis did have a stake in this company up until a few weeks ago, where they sold out. I think that was this big volume day here. They dumped all their shares. They had a 10% stake in this company, but I think they've still got, it stacks up from a financial point of view, and that's really all you can ask for. And their technical work seems to be pretty good as well. Not a lot of interest on hot copper or anything, but that doesn't really bother me. Sometimes it's the companies with the crappy sort of low grade deposits that just get the work done. They're some of the best companies to be in. These companies are producing high grade drill results and diluting shareholders frequently as well if they're over drilling their deposits. That's not necessarily what you want to be in. Some of these companies that go under the radar are better in my experience. The other one along a similar line, another one that's extremely illiquidly traded is ORR Corp, which I talked about last year. I think in these videos, I think I was talking about it in this range here. It had a really good run up last year, and since then, like Gascoigne, has gone sideways. Trades by appointment again. You're sort of talking maybe on a good day it might trade 50 grand worth of shares, and but I think it's carving out a bit of a bottom here. Their deposit is of a scale that is not really available in Australia anymore for some of these developing companies. I think they've got almost 3 million ounces in indicated and measured resources, which is a huge number. They only own 50% of the project once their feasibility study is completed, probably in the next 3 to 4 months. But I think even with that level, these guys have got real experience too in developing projects. I think this is a good company to be in. But yeah, it's a good time to nibble away at some of these companies. You don't want to be. They can, as they are so illiquid, they can go down a ways more if there's it only takes one or two sellers to push this down 10%. But I think you want to be sort of sitting there watching these small liquid companies that have good resources in the ground, good resources in the ground, good management, and ticking the boxes technically. So that's what I'm looking at the moment in the 3 companies there I've been buying into in the last 6 weeks. ORR Corp I've been holding for a year or so, but yeah, Gascoigne, Capricorn, and ORR Corp are a couple to check out on the market at the moment.